Mike Perry was branded as a guy tough as nails, and he lacked the skills to compete with Jake Paul.
I mean, Jake Paul just keeps on showing how much he's improving drastically in only 6-7 years.
You have to give him this props. He beat a respectable guy, a respectable opponent.
That whole argument is kind of dumb. I think it's more impressive to fight Tyron Woodley. That's better than fighting some local bum who has a record of 10-4.
Let's talk about the KO of the year. Already,
a boxer can be winning the fight, and in 3 seconds, he can get knocked out. I think this might be the first time Lomachenko has ducked somebody.
Lomachenko's manager came out and said that Lomachenko's not feeling the motivation.
Lomachenko doesn't want the smoke with Tank. And why would he? If they were to fight, Tank would win.
If he decides tomorrow to retire, it's not going to affect his career not fighting Tank.
Shama. Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over Jake Paul's TKO win over Mike Perry, as well as the Knockout of the Year contender on the undercard of the event. We'll also be discussing and giving our opinions about the failed negotiations between Gervonta "Tank" Davis and Lomachenko. But before we dive into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, don't forget to join us on our Discord as we try to build up a community. Everything is down in the link in the description below. Now, jumping into the episode, right away, let's start off with Jake Paul, man. He was expected big favorite. I'm not sure big favorite, but he was favorite to defeat Mike Perry this past weekend, and he fulfilled that. You know, he came out with the TKO win over a very tough Mike Perry. Okay, Mike Perry was branded as a guy tough as nails, and he lived up to the name. But I mean, toughness can only get you so far. If you can be tough, but you need some skills, and that's what Mike Perry lacked, and that's what was the reason why he lost this fight, in my opinion. He lacked the skills to compete with Jake Paul, and Jake Paul cruised to a pretty comfortable stoppage win, very dominant, steamrolled over Mike Perry. And now he's looking as the quote-unquote the king of violence now, what they were dubbing him. But what are your guys' thoughts about this event, Jake Paul's win over Mike Perry?
Yeah, I mean, Jake Paul did what he had to do. You know, he performed really well. I was actually pretty impressed by Jake Paul. You know, Mike Perry, like you said, I mean, this guy's tough as nails. He was going to show no respect to Jake Paul. We were talking about it last episode as well, that Mike Perry is a dog. And if Jake Paul was still a very novice type of boxer, then Mike Perry would have beat him, even if he had no skill, just based off of the aggression. But Jake Paul, he controlled his emotions better than I expected. I think he was going to struggle a lot more dealing with the pressure that Mike Perry put on him, but he really didn't. He didn't struggle that much. It took him a round or two. He started getting into the groove, and he started landing some hellacious shots on Mike Perry. He got him out of there. I mean, Jake Paul just keeps on showing how much he's improving drastically in only 6-7 years. So it was very impressive by Jake Paul.
Yeah, it is very impressive because if you look at it from like the very beginning, back in 2017, he's fought since then until now. He barely within the, like, if let's say he was an amateur boxer, he turned an amateur boxer in 2017, and then up until now, he would have barely entered the open division. Mm-hmm. So he barely has any fights, and he's already doing things like that. He's stopping guys. He's stopping guys who were world champions in their own respective sports. He's beating guys who are dogs in their own respective sports. And I feel like this win against Mike Perry is definitely the cherry on the top. I think now you have to give him this props. Like, he beat a respectable guy, a respectable opponent. Mm-hmm. So give Jake his props. Give his flowers to him now.
Mm-hmm. I don't agree with that. Here's the thing. I came into the fight, predicting Jake Paul to win by decision because I was under the impression that we were going to see more from Mike Perry. I was under the impression that Mike Perry was going to be able to, I was expecting him to throw a lot more punches, let his hands go. And, I mean, he said it after the fight that Jake was too fast. I couldn't adapt, and that's what I believe led to his inability to throw volume. And I mean, I was expecting a lot more from Mike Perry. Maybe I was deceived. Mm. I believe I was. And so this whole, watching the fight, I was like, dang, this first round, he dropped him, right? It wasn't a hard knockdown. He just kind of slipped.
It was more of like a flash knockdown, more of off balance.
Yeah. But the second round knockdown, now that one was heavy. Mm-hmm. But I was expecting a lot more, man. I don't know. I expected Mike Perry to be yes, he was applying pressure, but it wasn't smart pressure. I mean, he wasn't cutting off the ring. And when he had Jake Paul on the ropes, I mean, wasn't letting his hands go. And, I mean, if you're not going to beat Jake Paul, skill-wise, because Jake Paul's been fighting or dedicating his life to boxing for the past 7 years now, and I mean he was on his toes. He was trying to move around the ring, and Mike Perry's not known to be a boxer. They just more known to be a tough guy, a brawler in the essence. So he wasn't going to beat him boxing, but when he had him on the ropes, that's when he should have been taking advantage and letting his hands go. But we didn't see that. I mean, he had multiple opportunities to do so, and he didn't. So I was led to believe that Mike Perry was going to do a lot more than what was shown this past weekend. And yes, I was like, yeah, Jake Paul got his win. I got my prediction right. But I mean, I wasn't really too impressed that, in my opinion.
Yeah, the thing is, I think Mike Perry, everyone saw his skills are his boxing skills are basically zero. I mean, he was breaking so much fundamental rules in boxing. From the first round, he came out with his hands down, just applying immense pressure with his chin in the air. That's asking for a jab, that's asking for a counter punch. His fundamental boxing skills aren't there, and they were never going to be there. I think basically what this fight was going to show for Jake Paul is if he can handle a pressure fighter, a fighter that doesn't give him any respect, that is just going to go in and try to manhandle him, make it rough, make it a dirty fight. Because Jake Paul, that is one of his weaknesses. He does struggle a little bit when fighters pressure him, when fighters don't really give him that much respect. His last couple of fights when he fought, Ryan Bortland or another guy, he'd KO them in the first round, because they were scared of Jake, right? They were just a couple of bums. They came in for the paycheck. They got their ass knocked out in the first round. Nothing like that happened. But with Mike Perry, he's gonna go in there. I mean, he wasn't scared of Jake Paul. He loves to fight. This guy's he bare knuckle fights. This guy loves violence. So he was breaking every single rule in boxing. And Jake Paul, he calmed his nerves. He set up great counter punches. And he got him out of there relatively easily. I think that's basically what the props to give Jake Paul is. At least, what I'm saying, he is evolving. He's looking okay, his counterpunching skills, they're pretty good. And again, it's pretty easy to counterpunch when a guy is just going at you with his hands down like this, right? But it is still something. It's you have to say Jake Paul, okay, he is drastically improving at a very quick rate. That's what I think is kind of crazy. Jake Paul, I mean, we were talking 7 years. He's only been fighting for 7 years, and he's improving this quick and this fast. He's on a fast track. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive. So, I mean, going back to what you said, you were expecting a little bit more than from Mike Perry. I understand that, but I mean, you have to give props to Jake. The reason why Mike wasn't able to perform 100% was because Jake was at 100%. Jake has shown that he's continuing to improve, and he's going to continue to improve a lot more. He looked pretty good. I feel like he even looked better than when he fought against Nate Diaz, and that's another guy who has a similar style to Mike Perry in the sense of the aggression, So now he did it better against another guy who was very much aggressive. And I'm looking at the comments online. A lot of them are still not giving Jake his props, and that kind of makes me mad. You got to look at it from an unbiased perspective. You have to give him props because he does continue to show out and improve a lot more.
Yeah, this is one thing about Jake Paul. He's bashed online constantly, right? This is one of these guys that you can't even give any props to him. Because everyone is just going to be like, oh, Jake Paul's he doesn't fight any boxers. Everyone hates him, basically, on the internet. But I feel like that kind of clouds their judgment, regarding his skills and his ability and, what he's doing in his career only 7 years in. If a random guy was just some guy turned pro 7 years ago and he was already fighting guys like Mike Perry, Tyron Woodley, I mean, that's a pretty faster track than usual boxers, because people always are hating, oh, he's not fighting real boxers. This is the number one critique about Jake Paul. He doesn't fight real boxers. He fights old guys. He fights MMA, ex-MMA guys. He fights people that, don't box basically, that aren't boxers, that from a different sport. The thing is, though, a lot of these, let's say, let's give like a prospect, some prospect from Top Rank or some prospect from Eddie Hearn. They're fighting boxers. They're fighting guys who have a boxing license and, you know, have a couple of fights. Maybe they're veterans or whatever, but they're bums. They're absolutely bums. They're complete. Maybe they have a record of like 10-12. That like they box their whole life. Is that a boxer? Is that what a boxer is?
On paper, yes.
On paper. That's why that whole argument is kind of dumb, because I think it's more impressive to fight Tyron Woodley, an ex-UFC fighter. Okay, yes, he isn't a professional boxer, but he's an ex-UFC fighter, and he's a guy who hit really hard, and he was a guy who competed at the top level in UFC. Mike Perry, a bare-knuckle fighter who competed at the top level in bare-knuckle and is doing really good. That's better than fighting some local bum boxer who has a record of 10-4 and barely trains.
For me, my biggest critique for Jake Paul is, you know, I guess the whole argument about the fighting non-boxers and whatnot is a good argument to have against them. Mm. But my main one is the weight. Mm.
This is a big one too.
That's my main critique for Jake Paul when it comes to his opponent selection. Yeah, you can talk judgment about his opponent selection, about their age, but it's the weight that matters. I mean, he was seen as quote-unquote knockout artist because, I mean, every opponent he's fought has either gone knocked down or gone slept. Every single one of them has, and they come up with the argument that, oh, Jake Paul has a lot of power, which, yes, he probably does inhibit some power, but I mean, a big factor is the fact that he's making these guys go up to a higher weight class than what they would be normally competing in. Take, for example, I mean, Nate Robinson is one of them. I mean, we're talking about, first, Nate Robinson wasn't even a fighter or whatever.
He's a basketball player.
He was an all-star.
He was athletic. He was athletic. Yeah, that's what they were saying. Like, that was the whole narrative that, oh, he's fighting an athlete, you know.
Okay. Look how far Jake has come.
Yeah, he's fighting an athlete. That was like one of the first narratives. And I mean, you looked at the size difference. It was noticeable from the weigh-ins. Going to even Anisan Gibb said he had him go up like 10 pounds over his normal weight in order to fight against Jake Paul. You look at this one. Jake Paul was coming off a rumor 240 pound, 220 around the 220, 240 pound bulk, you know, because he was supposed to fight Mike Tyson. Fight got canceled or postponed, and Mike Perry showed up, and, you know, they had to do a new contract and come up with a new weight. So, you know, it was cruiserweight. We're talking about a man who essentially cut from like 220, from 240, all the way down to 199, you know. And he struggled to make
the weight. He missed the weight the first time.
He struggled to make it, exactly. And even in the ring, you could clearly tell the size difference, man. Mike, it was I forgot who said it on Twitter, but they're all like, "Oh, it's a heavyweight versus a middleweight," because that's what the apparent size issue looked, and it's noticeable that Jake Paul fights smaller guys, and that's what allows him to showcase his power, which he does. But you got to look at the size difference also as probably the biggest factor for his power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's the one thing that you could definitely give pushback to is the weight. You know, he always chooses guys who typically, you know, they do have combat experience or they do have some championship from the respective sport, but he's moving them up in weight. So I guess that is the one pushback. But the other thing is that I believe Jake does have power, though. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. He does have the power.
He does have power, but I mean, look at the one fight that I always look back to determine whether or not he has power is against Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, his size, his age.
Let's hear him out.
Yes, he got dropped. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, was he hurt? No. Was it a flash knockdown? Yes, he got caught clean with a jab. Mm-hmm. And then what happened during that last round where he dropped in? Tommy Fury went back and whooped his ass the rest of the fight. And every single time Jake landed a clean flush shot on Tommy was never hurt. Mm-hmm. He was never buzzed. Mm-hmm. He was in control the whole fight. Jake got beat that fight. Mm-hmm. Where was his power there? Because, I mean, his power against Tyron Woodley was there. He knocked him out. His power against Ben Askren, Nate Robinson, and Anisan Gibb, all these guys. Yet his power against a guy who was in his prime, who was the same size as him. Where was the power there?
It didn't show up.
No.
It didn't show up. And this is one thing about Jake Paul. I mean, it's a smart tactic. You know, he isn't. I think the Tommy Fury fight was a really important fight in his career because it was kind of to measure how good he really is. You know, how advanced he is. And we saw he wasn't that advanced yet. Tommy Fury, he's been boxing not super diligently. You know, he wasn't like a boxer. He was a TV star, whatever. But he has been boxing
his whole life. He has amateur fights.
Exactly.
Does, yeah.
So, like, he does have a foundation of boxing a lot longer than Jake Paul. And you saw it in that fight. So, Jake Paul, I think what he did is he went back to the drawing board. He talked to his team. And he was like, okay, I still want to give the fans a little bit of action, right? I'm not just going to go and fight a ton of bums, just like every other prospect in boxing that's rising up. They fight complete trash cans and just get knockouts. I still want to fight maybe like UFC fighters or MMA fighters, people that still have experience, that have a name, so there can be a really big event. You know, I'm still really talked about, relevant in the boxing space. But I also want a clear advantage. And I think that's what it is. The clear advantage that Jake Paul always gets is that he is much bigger than every opponent he faces. I mean, he's facing guys that are like 5'9", 5'10", that usually weigh around 170, 180. This Jake Paul is 6 feet tall. He weighs around 200 pounds. He's a big boy. And that's why his power usually shows up in these fights. I mean, if you're going to fight a guy who weighs 180 and you're weighing 200 pounds, you don't have to hit like Alex Pereira. You don't have to hit like a fucking stone hand. You just have to land the right punch, and your weight advantage will do the rest.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Tommy Fury fight, I mean, just because he didn't... Okay, yeah, he dropped him, but he didn't hurt him because then, you know, Tommy Fury went on and basically came back, you know, in the round that he got dropped. But, I mean, Tommy Fury beat him just by boxing him, by making the fight dirty. He negated Jake's right hand, you know, and he basically made him look like a fish out of water. That's basically how he beat him, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't have the power. That's the reason why he didn't show up.
Well, this is another thing, man. A lot of people, the power about Jake Paul is a very controversial topic. Some people are saying all of Jake Paul's power is coming from those PEDs that he's injecting.
Nah.
There's another controversy about Jake Paul that people always bring up is he's on PEDs. You know, he has all this acne. Oh, his chin grew, or he's all red, or he got all big. These are all signs of some injecting.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I see all those allegations all the time, but I need to see the evidence, you know? Oh, okay, the evidence, they may say, oh, look at his face, then look at his physique. He's grown from, you know, from where he was back in 2016 to how he is now. He's now full on, you know, he's huge now. He fought Deji at, I think, like 170 or something like that. And now he's fighting at 200. But, I mean, yeah, maybe the physical, you can try to make an argument. But until I see, like, actual, like, evidence, you know, on paper that he failed, something that they found something in the system, then I will believe that. In that case, without that, I'm gonna stay a little, away from it until I actually see like actual evidence that he comes out popping with something. As of right now, I have no comment on that.
Yeah, I'm of the similar thinking of Pablo. You know, up until we're provided with evidence that he is taking PEDs, and I'm not gonna, you know, say anything about that, or I'm not gonna accuse him of that. And I think it's really easy because, you know, it's really easy to be a conspiracy theorist. So it's really, I feel like people really go fast into that mindset. It's possible that he could just have, you know, he just been out in the sun all day because he's in Puerto Rico now.
Yeah.
So he's training out in the sun all day.
Oh, yeah. Very humid climate.
Very hot.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's true. I think the most important thing is cold, hard evidence at the end of the day. We can all have our theories about him. They can all talk about his body transformation. Is there a possibility that he's taking PEDs? Of course there is. But there's also a possibility that he just grew into his body, he grew out into his frame, and he's just a big boy. Like, you can't just see his body transformation and completely say with 100% certainty that he's taking PEDs. So that's why I think people are a little too quick to judge Jake Paul. Again, going back to why people hate him so much, they give any reason to discredit him.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys, I mean, I don't know, maybe the public has a different opinion, or maybe they might give a different answer, but do you guys consider Jake Paul now a fighter? Do you think with this win against Mike Perry, it for sure is a soundproof evidence that he is a fighter and he's going to continue to improve?
Well, here's the thing. Here's my story with Jake Paul. I hated that man. I hated that man.
We started as Jake Paul haters ourselves.
I did not like him at all. I prayed for his demise. But then as you grow up, and you're kind of like, maybe it's not too bad, right? And so I started being less biased towards him. And now I see him in a different light. Of course, I'm not a big fan of his persona, of how he portrays himself. I think that's the main reason a lot of people don't like him or discredit him, because of the way how he presents himself, the things he be saying, saying, oh, give me Canelo, give me all these fighters. I'm going to be a WBC champion or heavyweight or cruiserweight world champion one day. And he be making all these outlandish claims about stuff. And that's why it rubs people off the wrong way, because of the way or the person that he puts out himself to be out in public. But if you look past the smoke screen and everything like that and look at him diligently, I would say I've considered him a boxer, but not a good one. If anything, he's very amateur. I still see him very good. A lot of amateur flaws in his game. I consider him a boxer, but just not a good one, man. I mean, he's improving. I'll give him that. He is improving, but he's not a good boxer. He's not elite. I don't consider him as such, and I probably never will. But I consider him a boxer, I mean, he gets in the ring, he fights, even though they're not against fighters. He fought against Tommy Fury, even though he lost. He's still a fighter, right? He's still a boxer, because he got in the ring against a boxer. So
that's what being a boxer is.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Going into the ring and boxing. Like, that's literally what a boxer is.
He also goes through camps.
Exactly.
He sacrificed time and effort in order to pursue his ambition as to become a world champion one day. He gets in the ring. I mean, if those three things are like, if people who claim that he's not a real boxer, they claim because, I don't know, he doesn't fight real boxers, then define me what a real boxer is. Define to me with clear, concrete evidence of what a boxer is. And then, maybe I'll consider it. But as of right now, everyone who says he's not a real boxer, I asked them, define it. They can't give me a good definition.
They can't, because if you give any clear definition of what a boxer is, Jake Paul fulfills it. He goes through training camps. Exactly. Like, he's dedicating. This is the thing. Jake Paul, he started as an influencer, as a YouTuber. He started in Vine, I think, where he got his popularity. Transitioned to YouTube. And that's why people look at him as a YouTuber, influencer, some guy on social media trying to get some views. But if you look at his life in the past 7 years, all he's doing is boxing. Literally all he's doing. He's going in training camps, and then he's fighting somebody. He wins. He's going in another training camp, and then he's fighting somebody else. He's training camp, fighting somebody else. That's all his life is, and that's basic. So he's living a boxer life. That's what a boxer is. I've considered Jake Paul a boxer for many years now. For a couple, I don't know, many years. I've considered him for a boxer for a good amount of time now. That's why I think the hate on him is they're quick to hate on him. They're quick to discredit him. They're quick to, talk shit about him. But Jake Paul continues to grow in the boxing space. I mean, not only is he doing stuff promoter-wise, he's helping the women boxing tremendously, but he's also doing really good in his own career. Like, he's still advancing. He's still now, supposedly, he called out Mike Tyson, and we're going to get that fight in November on Netflix as advertised. So, I mean, he has so much doors. If you look in the future, Jake Paul is still going to continue to be in boxing. That is a boxer.
Yeah, I think so too, because I mean, it's exactly what you said. He's doing exactly what Canelo does, what Crawford does. They fight, they take a little break, and then they're right back to training, and then they look for a fight, and then there's the training camp, and then there we go, and then this is the process. The process recycles again and again and again. I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit about things that he could improve on, some flaws that you guys saw.
Let me talk first quick. My main thing from the fight, going back to the fight against Mike Perry, did good, whatever. But my main thing is the cardio. He gassed out like by the third or fourth round. He was gassed. You could tell he was breathing hard. He setting up of punches is still needs some work. I mean, he relies way too heavily on just swinging that right hand with potential, with power. And I mean, if it doesn't land, that's the stamina taken out of you. And so I still see a lot of flaws in his cardio. I mean, maybe the weight played a factor. I mean, he had a cut from 220, 240, wherever he was, all the way down to the cruiserweight limit, and he struggled. So maybe that played a factor in his stamina. But I've said it before, and I said it in the last episode, one of his main flaws is his stamina. He does gas out, and he did gas out this fight. He's lucky that Mike Perry wasn't able to take advantage of that, letting his hands go and punishing them more. And I think that's my biggest concern, or my biggest critique, is he needs to work on that tank, man. He needs to do something, or maybe he's just that type of fighter that just doesn't have a good tank.
Yeah, and he also might be a fighter that like struggles to handle pressure fighters. Yeah. Because some people naturally like to go forward, and some people naturally don't fight really well on the back foot. That is a very natural sentiment for a lot of boxers. Some boxers struggle to fight on the back foot. Some boxers struggle to counterpunch. I think Jake Paul, his counterpunching is improving a lot more. Obviously, he's fighting fighters that don't have that great of a defense. Therefore, his offense looks pretty good. His counter strikes look really well. But I think the improvements that he needs to do, Jake Paul he has to fix up. I think the cardio really, really well, obviously, but also going forward. I think he's better at going forward, being more aggressive. I mean, he's a big boy. This guy, he always fights fighters that are smaller than him, that weigh less than him. He should use his body a bit more instead of relying on a back foot, running around the ring. I think using his body a little bit more, getting more comfortable with like getting punched. I think using more high guard and like trying to push your opponent back, establish the jab, that type of stuff. I think that would favor him a lot better than solely relying on a counterpunch, because he is good counterpunching, but I think it's more natural for him to go forward and be the pressure fighter.
Yeah, I think so too. But I feel like he's still a little bit scared, and I think it comes with the experience.
Exactly.
He doesn't feel comfortable exchanging, or he doesn't want to get hit. So I think that's why he relies sometimes on going back, like especially against guys who just go forward, like Nate Diaz and Mike Perry. Like he was definitely on the back foot. And I feel like something that ties in with the cardio is that he doesn't know how to weather that. So if you found a way to weather that, I feel like then he wouldn't be so tense, so stiff, and then maybe he would be a little less tired throughout the fight. And then the second thing I would say is just he needs to vary his speed, because I feel like he uses the same speed again and again and again, and he does the same pace. He throws the punches at the same speed, and he doesn't time it. Like he just throws it to throw it. He doesn't throw it because I got it, but it's still the same speed.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I mean, experience breeds confidence. The more times he gets in the ring, the more times he performs, the better he's gonna get, and the more comfortable he's gonna be in there. We still see he's a bit uncomfortable still, in these fights, and that's to be expected. I mean, that's normal, man. What is he? 13 fights in, 12 fights in, no amateur experience. Of course, you're gonna be a little bit nervous. Of course, you're gonna be a little bit hesitant. You're gonna be a little tense. You might gas out too quickly. I think that's basically what it is. His cardio. I'm sure he works hard. I'm sure he trains hard. I'm sure he's really in shape when he goes in these fights. But I think he is a bit still nervous. I think he's still a bit hesitant to like throw punches and to really assert himself under the lights. And then that leads to him gassing out and being a little tense.
That's true. And I believe that he needs to up his opponents now. Switching to that topic real quick.
Supposedly, I mean, he called out Mike Tyson again.
Bro, I do not want to see that fight.
No one wants to see the Mike Tyson fight.
I do not want to see that fight at all. At this point, it's like... okay, that's another main critique I have, Jake. Bro, level up your opponents now, man, okay? Because it's at the point where I'm just like... You're regressing in your career when you're taking fights like Mike Perry or Mike Tyson, especially Mike Tyson.
I'd say Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, because, I mean, we're talking about a 60-year-old man nearly, and he's coming off a in-flight medical scare. So what are you going to do? You're still really going to try to have a fight with this man? Like, it makes no sense. At the same time, Mike Tyson also, I feel like he should just chill back and just retire. I mean, everyone already considers them a legend. I mean, you got nothing to prove. But Jake Paul, man, you say you want to be a world champion, yet it seems like you're not practicing what you're preaching. Your opponent selection is still being a little shaky. At this point, I'm saying he's more reliant on making money, as much money that he can make, as long as as he's relevant in the sport. And I mean, if you want to make money, bro, like, fight, up your opponents, and the money fights will come. I mean, imagine like you can get, if you start fighting ranked fighters and you're beating them at cruiserweight. Imagine what that does to your brand, man. You're gonna become more credible among the fans. You're gonna be shown more opportunities for money fights, and you're gonna get that dream of yours of getting a title shot someday, if that ever happens. Because at the pace that he's going in my opinion, it doesn't seem likely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is one thing. I mean, I cut Jake Paul a little bit of slack on his opponent selection, just because he doesn't have any amateur experience, and he's only 11 fights in, 12 fights in. I will cut him a bit of slack. But I definitely won't cut him any slack for fighting Mike Tyson. This guy is coming off of a medical emergency, man. No one wants to watch Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Even though it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be a very big event on Netflix. Millions and millions of homes have Netflix on their TV, so they'll tune in. He'll get a lot of money. They're just going to hate on him more. That's just asking. If you're Jake Paul, you're asking to be hated on. If you're gonna fight a guy like Mike Tyson, who's so lovable, who's such a legend, I don't want to see that fight.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we don't want to see that fight, but I feel like the people still want to see that fight, because that's what I'm saying. Like, people. I'm looking at the comments. Even after the day after his fight, people are still not giving his props to Jake, and I feel like they still want him to fight someone. And I feel like for them, that would be like the guy that maybe they might head over to Jake's team, or maybe they might give him his credit if he beats Mike Tyson,
the
think, legend.
You think people are going to give him credit if Jake Paul beats Mike Tyson?
We're talking about casuals here. I feel like the casuals for sure then see Jake Paul as a real fighter, because he would have beaten an undisputed champion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either, honestly.
I actually don't think the fans will ever give him respect until he beats Zurdo Ramirez.
Until he wins a world title.
Yeah, until he wins a world title. Like, screw Mike Tyson. Put him against the Zurdo Ramirez next. I don't think they will give him respect until he fights someone, in their words, ranked or their own definition of a real fighter.
Or a Tommy Fury rematch.
Yeah,
that would give him more respect.
I guess so. But even then, there's still a hate, because they still say that Tommy Fury isn't even that good. So, I mean, it's a no-win for Jake Paul, in my opinion. I don't think he's ever going to get the respect as long as he's fighting. But
for Mike Tyson, I feel like no one. I don't think the boxing community is really happy with that fight, man. I don't think they are. Like, Mike Tyson, he's coming off a medical scare. That's one thing. He's also like 60 years old. That's another thing. He hasn't fought since he did an exhibition match against Roy Jones, and that was like 3-4 years ago. And then after that, before that, he hasn't fought anybody for years. This is a guy that's not active. This is like, it's an easy way to hate on Jake Paul. Oh, he's fighting old guys. He's fighting retired fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so easy to criticize that fight that even if he wins, they're easily gonna criticize it and be like, oh, Jake Paul's. He's fighting old, retired guys, man. Fuck him.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm of the same way of thinking of you guys. I really don't want to see that fight, because I feel like it's not going to look very good for Mike. I don't see him winning, really. I don't really see him pulling through. But I feel like just within the casuals, they just remember Mike Tyson as Mike Tyson. They probably didn't even see the Roy Jones fight. They just remember as Mike Tyson as, oh, he used to knock guys out with one punch. And maybe, yes, they're thinking about, oh, Mike Tyson is 60 years old. He did have a medical scare. But if he gets Jake Paul with that one punch.
They say that power is the last thing that leaves you. Maybe Mike Tyson still has that power.
There's got to be an age limit to that, bro.
Do you think so? I don't know. I don't know. But supposedly, that's still rumored to be the next opponent for Jake Paul. If I was in his team, I would tell him, don't fight Mike Tyson, fight somebody else. And he called out Alex Pereira.
I don't really care.
Yeah,
I don't take
that's
anything.
Just for show, really.
I don't care.
They FaceTime together.
I don't care.
Yeah, and then he hung up. He was like, I want to fight you. Beep.
Yeah, I'm not. I just ignored that one. I was like, brother, no one. We know you're the same way when he calls out Canelo. Like, he's just saying it just to say it, just to spark.
It's antics.
Controversy. Yeah, spark people to speak about his name whatsoever. But Yeah, so that was the I guess the Jake Paul Mike Perry I guess was a very, how could I word this? I don't know. There's a lot of things to get from it. Still a lot of hate, of course. I mean, that's guaranteed or warranted for any Jake Paul fight. But I think for sure we can say that Jake Borland is a better fighter than Mike Perry, right, guys?
Is that true?
Yes, I need to see that fight.
I mean,
Mike Perry versus Jake Borland.
they say Jake Borland is a real boxer.
He is.
He's a real boxer.
Hey man, the referee stopped it way too prematurely in that
Prematurely.
fight. Yeah, Jake Borland was he was loading up, bro. He was just warming up, but you know how refs
He didn't let
be.
him get into the fight.
Yeah, exactly. So Jake Borland, or is it Jake Borland?
Jake Borland.
It is Jake Borland,
The
right?
Rhino.
Or Borland, bro. I need to see him again. But I guess that's a little bit of our thoughts and opinions about.
I guess I just want to say that I'm very happy that I got my prediction right. You know,
Uh-huh.
I called this since last week. I said Jake Paul was going to get the KO stoppage, and people in the comments were like, yo, this guy does not know anything about boxing. He's never set one foot in the ring. He doesn't know what he's talking about. What a bunch of casuals.
And you got it right.
And I got it right. Give me my props, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my Jake Paul prediction right.
Exactly.
Not the
Decision,
not the way of winning, but I still predicted him to win. But so that was our thoughts and opinions about Jake Paul and Mike Perry, more especially toward Jake Paul. But before we dive into Lomachenko and Gervonta Davis, let's talk about the in my opinion, the KO of the year. Already, I think this is gonna win it.
Ooh.
I already think this is gonna win it. We had Lucas Bahdi absolutely pull off the major upset against H20 Sylve. I never knew how to pronounce Ashton. I call him Ashton H20.
Water molecule.
Yeah, Ashton H20 was upset this past weekend on the undercard for the Jake Paul and Mike Perry. And let me say this: I remember I came across Ashton H20 on Instagram when he was still an amateur, and I saw his post and whatnot when he was still in the amateurs, and I saw him when he made his first his pro debut, and then I saw him build his career, and I saw him sign to MVP. So I've seen this kid for a while now, a couple years. So seeing how he got absolutely KO'd in that brutal fashion, I was like, this is crazy. I mean, it's insane how it happened so quick, man. Because H20 comfortably winning the fight. I was looking at the fight and I was like, man, if it keeps going like this, H20 might stop him. But I mean, you never know in boxing, man. Boxing's very unpredictable. And Lucas Bahdi was able to hit him with a beautiful 3-punch combination, and then the left hook from hell, man. That one, oh my gosh, absolutely so fast, so quick, out of nowhere, boom, done, night out. And H20 now has to, I don't know what's next for him at this point. A lot of people were saying that he's not going to be the same after this. What's his name? Rick Glacier on Twitter was saying he should no longer fight anymore.
Wow.
Big. I think that was a big overreaction in my opinion. But a lot of people were very concerned about him, saying that he probably will not be the same fighter. What do you guys thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes boxing so interesting. A boxer can be winning the fight so comfortably, and in 3 seconds, he can get knocked out. H20 was winning the fight super well. He was boxing. He was doing what he had to do. He gets sparked out against Bahdi.
Lucas Bahdi.
Lucas Bahdi. He gets sparked out cold, like Manny Pacquiao. And I love Manny Pacquiao, but he got laid out like Manny Pacquiao. So it was so, oh my God, it was so breathtaking. I love seeing knockouts like that. The only thing that I hated that made me angry about that KO was that fucking ref, man. Oh my gosh, I have an absolute vendetta against that ref who didn't let Bahdi celebrate his KO victory. I mean, if I put myself in Bahdi's shoes, I just knocked out a fighter who was whooping my ass for like 7 rounds, and then I knock him out. Yeah, you're damn right. I'm gonna celebrate. Like, what the hell? But the ref held him back. That's the one thing that pissed me off a little bit. Shout out Bahdi. Hopefully he gets a contract by any big major promotion. Hopefully I see him a lot more because I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan too. We need to get the name of that ref because like he should not. They should get he should get some type of like penalty or something.
Nah, I don't think it was that.
Fine him.
Fine him. Yes.
Nah, okay.
Put him in jail.
Because
Nah,
guess
that's
what?
an overreaction,
If
bro.
H2O would have knocked out Lucas face down, ass up, best believe the ref would have just let H2O get up on the ropes and celebrate.
Do whatever he wanted.
Do whatever he wanted, and then he would have let poor Lucas just lay down unconscious on the canvas.
Revoke his license.
Yes.
I agree though. I was upset about the reaction from the ref because at the end of the day, it's I mean the referees, their job is to make sure the fighter is good. He waved the fight off immediately when the second that H2O landed. He waved it off immediately. Bahdi went running to celebrate, and H2O he got knocked down heavy. He's there on the ground unconscious. It seemed like he was gasping, spasming a little bit, and instead of focusing on H2O, making sure he was well, making sure that the doctors come in or the commission or the coroner, he goes off and starts chasing Bahdi. Like, man, H2O could be bleeding. He could be, something. He could very well have passed away that day. And you're out there, more focused on Bahdi not celebrating, like, come on, brother. It's it's in your best interest. It's your job to make sure that the fighter's well. And I feel he didn't fulfill that. That's what pissed me off.
Yeah, you should be focusing on the guy that's face down, ass up, not the guy that's going over to his corner and trying to celebrate.
Hey, yeah, maybe he should get his license revoked because immediately, right away, a whole bunch of people went into the ring. He could have been trampled.
Who?
H2O.
Oh, H2O.
Yeah, he was just laid down.
I think he was the main caught.
And instead, he was just going over and getting the other guy.
Nah, that's
Inconsiderate.
I don't agree with
Inconsiderate. Ban that ref from boxing. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, that's one thing about it was so breathtaking. It was so spectacular. Knocked him out completely cold, man. Like that's why, you know what I'm saying? Jake Paul as a promoter, he might know what he's doing.
What do you mean? That's his fighter that got knocked out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Hey, but he put him up against that prospect though. He made that fight happen.
The thing is, dude, nah, that was bad matchmaking because H2O was set to fight Floyd Schofield, man. When I saw that fight was supposed to happen, I was like, damn, they're really gonna mess up H2O. I was like, he's not ready for that fight.
But he was against Schofield.
Schofield.
Oh, yeah.
Schofield would have whooped him. I'm telling you right now, he would have whooped him. So when I saw that fight, I was like, dude, they're really jumping him up a level. Like that's a crazy level to take at this point for his career because he's only 11 fights in as well. I mean, Schofield doesn't have many fights. He doesn't have as many fights either. But I see him as a higher level than H2O. So I was like, this is a big jump. And then we saw this happen, right? After the Mike Tyson fight got postponed, the fight got breaking down, and they put H2O against Lucas Bahdi. And Lucas Bahdi, he was going in as a 16. He's undefeated, 16 wins, 0 losses, 14 of those wins by way of knockout. He's a heavy-handed fighter. This was also a big risk to take. But, I mean, as you saw during the fight, he was whooping him. He was winning every single round very comfortably until he got caught. And now H2O will probably never be the same, I saw a tweet saying how what's worse, to get knocked out in that fashion or to get an 8+ round beating, in a fight, like the way that Earl Spence or Devin Haney, what's worse? What's worse for a fighter? How does that affect them? And then it's kind of hard to tell, but one thing for sure, he won't be remembering what happened in that fight, man.
Well, this is one thing that I'll answer that question because this is something that happens very regularly against boxing, and I'll take it to UFC, boxing, UFC. It's worse to get your ass whooped for 10 rounds than to get knocked out in 10 seconds and just completely flatline. Because if you get your ass kicked, you might maybe go down, you might get dropped a little bit, and you get up. You've been conditioned your whole life to pick your hands up, to hug, to try to survive. So maybe you even have a concussion when you go down for the first time and you still continue to get up the stool and continue to fight. That's worse when your brain is already damaged and you're continuously taking damage. If you get knocked out in 10 seconds, if you get knocked out just like that, obviously your memory's gone. Your memory, I think Kamaru Usman said, you take a 20-minute nap. You don't remember kind of anything, really what happened.
You black out.
But obviously, it's not good for you. but it is healthier than taking an ass whip for 10 rounds. So that is true, but I don't know if even that being said, I don't think H2O is going to be the same, honestly.
Yeah, and I feel like this was a huge upset. And I feel like for the people who were just kind of tuning in to watch Jake Paul fight, or even Amanda Serrano, maybe don't even know much about H2O. Within the boxing rankings, this guy was a prospect. I feel like on the cusp of becoming a potential contender, and he's with competing against guys like Floyd Schofield, Abdullah Mason as well, because they're within the same weight class, and he's excelling as well. And now that trajectory has completely changed. Like now we don't even know if he's going to be able to come back. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, he's going to come back because he's just 20. Like he can continue. He can still come back. Look what happened to Manny Pacquiao. He got knocked out the exact same way later in life, and he still came back, and he still became a world champion after. But I think I feel like every case is unique, but I feel like Rick Glaser, maybe he could have been exaggerating a little bit, saying that he's never going to come back, but he stated that he was out for a good 10 minutes. That's a long time to be sleeping, I feel. So I mean, it's really possible that he may not be this. We may see him, but it's possible that whatever trajectory he had is not going to be there no more.
I feel it's just going to affect him psychologically, and if anything that of course he's young, so he has that advantage to himself that he's able to recover quicker. His body's able to heal faster than if he were 35 years old and he suffered a KO like that. Of course, that's the end of a career. But with the Pacquiao thing, also, like, Pacquiao's a fucking anomaly, man.
Pacquiao is him.
He's an anomaly. Like he I don't know. That man's he can't be human at this point, man.
He is not human.
Like, how you get knocked out like that and then come back and still become a world champion at 40 years old at that point. Anyways, Pacquiao anomaly, but back to H2O. Yeah, his psychologically, I'm more eager to see and it depends on the character of the type of fighter he is. And I don't know. I'm not sure how he's able to take that, man. Same with Devin Haney. That's my main question about Devin Haney, Earl Spence as well. Like, how are they gonna psychologically recover from this? Is it gonna inhibit something? Are they gonna become more hesitant? Are they gonna become more fearful to exchange? Are they gonna? It's gonna do something to his career. And even though he is young and he may bounce back, he's not gonna be the same fighter he was before the fight.
It's scary to get knocked out. It's scary, especially when you are the man. When you have all the contract, when you have all the promotions behind you, everyone is believing in you. You're that guy. You're the next up. You're going to be the future world champion. And you get knocked out in 5 seconds. That's scary. Like, that takes a toll on you psychologically. So I think that is the biggest thing. Fuck the physical aspect of it, of how much damage it did. Psychologically, we may never see the H2O that we are accustomed to seeing.
So that was, in my opinion, knockout of the year so far, and I think it will win it. Absolutely devastating. Prayers for H2O to see if he can come back from this. Congratulations to Lucas Bahdi, man. That was absolutely sensational. And hopefully we get to see more of him because, now we know he has that knockout power, man. And it doesn't matter if he's down on all scorecards. He has that one punch that can change the fight.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to appreciate the combination that he threw. It was such a unique combination. Like, I feel like it's very rare for boxers to throw that. He threw 2 right hands and then a hook, which is kind of weird. I feel like that's no jab. He didn't set it up. He just threw 2 right hand. Like, he threw 1 right hand and then landed solid. And he's like, oh, I think I got him. Ashton stepped in and he's like, let me just throw the right hand again. Boom. Followed up with the hook. Boom. He was out after the second right hand, really.
Yeah, so Lucas Bahdi now a man to look after. Let's see what he does. Let's see what kind of changes he implements to his game. Let's see what other fights he's able to get. But last thing I want to briefly talk about is the Gervonta Davis and Lomachenko talks. Now, we were all very hyped to hear when Gervonta Davis and Lomachenko's teams were in talk for a fight in Vegas in November in order for unification, But this week, we got some bad news that happens a little too frequently sometimes in boxing. Lomachenko's manager came out and said that, Lomachenko's not feeling the motivation. He wants to take some time off, spend time with his family, and it's not a concern for him about money. If he's not motivated, he's not motivated, and he's not going to train well. He's not going to be focused on the fight. And they're eyeing for a 2025 return for him. Now, let me say this, man. I'm so mad. I am so mad. I mean, we're all blue balled once again. I mean, this is a fight that has been in the making since 2018. Of course, you could blame it all on Floyd and Gervonta Davis. I mean, not Gervonta, but Floyd for sure for not letting this fight happen earlier, which I think was a very smart decision on his part, because Gervonta Davis would have gotten absolutely mauled by Lomachenko back then. But now we're in a different era. We're a different time. And this fight, I mean, every month, every week, every day, every second that goes by is an advantage for Gervonta Davis. And like it or not, Lomachenko is what, 36 years old. He doesn't have much time left in the sport. I mean, he's a lot of wear and tear, a lot of fights, over 400 fights he's had in his entire career, amateur and professional. So, I mean, was this the smartest move from him? I mean, yes, he doesn't care about the money, but if you do plan on fighting Gervonta Davis, you gotta keep in consideration about your own time as well, how much time you have in the sport. And right now, we're in Gervonta Davis's time, and you gotta take every advantage you can possibly get and utilize it to a potential fight and potentially beating him.
Yeah, I think this is the smartest move for Lomachenko. I don't think it's very intelligent for Tank to go fight, or for Loma to go fight Tank. Listen, Loma is too old now. His skills have gone down a little bit, and Tank, his skills have gone up. I think if they were to fight, Tank would win. He's pretty relatively easily, honestly. And I don't think Loma really wanted. I think it shows him saying that he wants to go spend time with his family. I'm sure that is true. You know, he wants to go take time off. You know, he deserves the rest. But if you have a world title, if you have obligations in boxing, if you still want to go undisputed, if you still have ambitions in the sport, then you have to be competitive. And I think that this shows Lomachenko doesn't want the smoke with Tank. And why would he? He's too... He can't... I think he believes himself. He can't compete with Tank Davis. I don't think that many people can compete with Tank Davis. So it was kind of crazy to see that. I think this might be the first time that Lomachenko has ducked somebody. You know, a lot of people are calling him a duck. A lot of people are criticizing him. I think this is his first time where he avoided a fighter strategically, just like every other fighter does. He avoided him because it wasn't a very smart move on the chessboard.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not really mad about Lomachenko's move. Yes, I feel like a lot of people are interpreting it as he's ducking Tank. Sure, yeah, you can call it that. I mean, I would call it that too. But I mean, you could also say that when Tank was offered a fight with Lomachenko, I mean, he was also ducking Lomachenko back in the day. Yes, and you could say because he was too young, he wasn't prepared, he was unseasoned, you know, what, yada, 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 yada. They both ducked each other. It is what it is. If I'm going to be honest, I would not be sad if that fight never comes to fruition. Because I feel like Tank, especially Tank and his team, they prolonged this fight with Loma. They could have fought earlier, but through others, you know, and I feel like the excuses are always the negotiations, the different networks, the different promoters and stuff like that, then not being able to come to an agreement to fight on which platform and yada, yada, yada. But I feel like Tank overall and his team waited until the last second, until Loma, they started seeing Loma crack, you know, the age, father time coming in and doing his job. I feel like that's what it was. So if, you know, Lomachenko is a decorated amateur, decorated professional fighter, decorated fighter overall, if he decides tomorrow to retire, it's not going to affect his career not fighting Tank.
Yeah, I'm not sure. At this point, I don't really care. I don't care. Yeah, if it happens, it happens at this point. Because, I mean, we've been blue balled so many times with this fight, and it's never come to fruition. We were so close this time. You get the ball dropped. That's not going to happen. He's going to eye for a 2025 return. Anything can happen within that time span. You know, maybe Gervonta Davis now, I mean, you can go for a Pitbull rematch, of course, Stevenson, or go for his number one mandatory, which is El Camarón Cepeda. He has three different options. Let's see what he takes, and maybe something can happen. Same way that Lucas Bahdi was able to upset H20. I mean, maybe Gervonta Davis gets upset. Is it possible? Yes, it's probable. I don't believe so. But anything can happen. So, I think they're it's just what it is at this point. You know, fuck it, we ball type of stuff. So whatever happens, happens. And at this point, I just want to see Gervonta Davis back in the ring, and hopefully it is against maybe Shakur or Pitbull or Camarón Cepeda.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tank, Lomachenko is going to do whatever he wants to do. If he doesn't want to fight Tank Davis, then it doesn't matter. Lomachenko's still going to go down as a legend. He's still going to be a Hall of Fame fighter. So, you know, we might never see this fight. Honestly, I don't think we are going to see the fight between Tank and Lomachenko. We're never going to see the Power Puncher versus the Matrix. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that was our thoughts about the failed negotiations between Tank Davis and Lomachenko. I think we covered everything we wanted to today. Let us know down below. Are you guys mad? Do you consider Lomachenko a duck? Also, let us know about the knockout of the year. Is it your knockout of the year? And lastly, don't forget to tell us about your thoughts about Jake Paul versus Mike Perry. Do you guys respect Jake Paul, or do you guys still hate him? What's his next step? Should he fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.? Should he fight a rematch with Jake Borland? Let us know down in the description, in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, TikTok, and Instagram, as well as liking and subscribing to the channel. Lastly, don't forget to join our Discord. We are trying to build up a community, and you guys joining would be great, helpful, and help us support. But this was Pablo, and I am with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Run Podcast. Chama.